Welcome, everybody, to FraxCheck, your weekly Frax vibe check. I am your host, Capital K, and I'm joined by my co-host, DeFi Dave. And this is FraxCheck number 30. And this week, I call this week Normalizing.
Normalizing.
Things are falling back into place a little. Okay. Things are falling back into place a little. So we always first start off with our flagship product, that is the Frax stablecoin, and we are unchanged at 1,045,000,000. So through the whole market turmoil, we didn't really get any really big redemptions. But let's check how the peg did this week following the fiasco. We see here that just a small blip, right, last week. But in reality, we actually maintained the peg back to normal. We are in the range between 1.001 USDC and 0.996 USDC. Note, I'm using the peg as USDC, no longer USD.
Normalizing, engaged.
Normalizing. Yes. And then we got to go into go back 1 second, Dave. And then we got to look at the markets. So we go to Curve and we try to swap 100 million of Frax into USDC. And you see here we have an exchange rate of 0.991. And honestly, this is frankly one of the best rates we've seen on the Frax base pool. So if you are currently in Frax and you want to get out into USDC, like now is the time. Like,
don't call it a comeback.
Yeah. Yeah. So this is one of the best times to do so if you were thinking of doing so. And on the next slide, you see that we're going to cover the collateralization percent. Here we are staying flat at 92, obviously with the goal of moving that to 100. And then on the right-hand side,
love hearing you say that.
Yes. On the right-hand side, you see that we have our decentralization percent. And this has pretty much been downward trending for a long time until like about earlier this year, where we added FPI into the mix and it just bounced up to almost 24% now, representing a almost 2% increase from last week. So this
How
is what
high
we
do
like
you think
to
this
see.
can go? Do you think it can go to 50%? Is that what they said in the chat?
I mean, I don't recall, but if we have more FrxETH and we have more FrxLend against those assets, then yes, I could see us getting there. But again, it comes down to timeline, right? How long are you talking? Like in the next year? I don't think so.
No, probably like next 3 years.
Yeah, in the next 3 years, I think likely. Then on the next slide, you see here we track the TVL of the base pool, and we have a nice 493 million in TVL, which is a 6% increase from last week. This is our first uptick in a month. Okay, as you can kind of see here in the graph, right? It's a little U right there. This is our first uptick in a month, so this is actually really welcome. And then on the right-hand side, I take a look at the volume that this pool is generating. And we see here that we printed 194 million in monthly volume. Just for context, okay, in February, I believe we only did 49 million in February. So we already, 4x February's volume, and we haven't even finished March yet. And just for context, over the last week, we added 30 million in volume here. So Curve is just printing in fees this month. So good job, Curve. Good job, Curve. And
Thank you, Curve.
Yes. Here's my favorite section.
We're up still.
We are up still. I thought it was a blip. I really thought that we would not be holding up, but we actually increased by 1% to 118. For the listeners, what DeFi Dave reacted to was our percent of 3 pool. And if you recall last week, we were at 117. But again, things were cray-cray last week. So I thought it was a complete fluke. But now that things are normalizing, and we're normalizing around this height and this ratio between 3 pool and base pool, Frax base pool, I am optimistically. I know. I'm just gonna bite my tongue now and not say anything. But yes, I'm happy. So on the next slide, you see a side-by-side comparison of all the pools of the Frax base pool at 493 million, 3 pool at 419 million, and the Frax3 CRV at 382 million. So this is kind of the ratio that we saw in the crazy week before that. So let's see if this kind of holds out for the next 2 weeks or so when things truly normalize. And here, our new favorite section, we have our FrxETH.
It's been our favorite.
yes. This is our FrxETH segment where we kind of check what's going on with FrxETH. And you see here, for the listeners, the graph is just up and to the right. It's actually kind of falling off of the chart here. And we are at 121,079 Ethereum inside the FrxETH contract. Insane growth. There's a 5% gain over last week. And if you really could go to the Dune dashboard and just take a look at this graph, it's just
should I just go to the Dune dashboard?
No, you don't have to. I'm telling the listeners to go in there and just see it for themselves. And you just get to experience this. But let's see where all of these FrxETH are hanging out. And on the right-hand side, you see that they're all currently, or no, sorry, not all, but 58% of them are chilling in the FrxETH contract vault. I wonder why. Maybe it's because it has a nice 11% in yield. Maybe that could be a very strong reason. And then where are the other FrxETH folks? Well, they're hanging out. 31% of them are hanging out in the Curve LP pool. And this is interesting, right, Dave? Like when MEV is high and things are like kind of volatile, we have folks going into the FrxETH and leaving the Curve LP. When theoretically we want more in the Curve LP.
Curve LP.
So it's, this is kind of like a weird situation that we're stuck.
But it has a way of balancing out, because more people go into FrxETH, and then over time the rate falls, and then the Curve LP has the higher rate, and there's just natural flow, this yin and yang between liquidity and earning yield.
But bro, you know what the wild card is? The wild card is this 11% of the else that increased by 45% over the last week. I'm like, where is this else ether hanging out in the ether?
I'm really curious, like where everything else is. Like, is it in wallets? Like, what protocols are in it?
Same. Like, I mean, in Thanos, or what was the other one?
Thana.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody's hanging out over there. And it's just, I'm just very surprised to see that people are just voluntarily. I think Sam calls this, what is it, Dave? Like monetary premium or something?
Yeah, the monetary premium. So the monetary premium is basically all the other stablecoin circulation that isn't earning yield at the risk-free rate or isn't in the swap facility. So that's just being used for its utility.
Yes. As a medium of exchange or as a medium of whatever the hell you want. And enough talk about the supply. Let's talk about the pay.
Oh, that's a nice swap rate
you see here, things are back. Like things are really back to normalizing, right? We have the FrxETH to ETH exchange rate of 0.9997, everybody. And this is a marked increase because last week we got as low as 0.995. Okay. But again, we can't just look at the PEG dashboard. We got to go into the market. So I went into the Curve swap and I swapped 3,500 FrxETH for ETH, and I got an exchange rate of 0.9980. So still not as good as what's on the dashboard, but frankly, again, much better than what we had last week, which was quite, again, 0.995. So this is, I normally, when I think of this number, a good benchmark for me is as long as it's not 0.997 or below, because that would mean you're just trading like between, the 30 bips fee tier, and you shouldn't be trading there for a like kind asset. That's just my take. And another thing I want to highlight is our TVL in this pool, the FrxETH ETH pool, is still at 124 million. We are 9 solid figures, and this week we gained 10 million in this pool. So,
nice.
That's really nice in my opinion. But enough about this. Let's see how we stack up against the competitors. And on the next slide, you'll see our landscape. And here I want to just quickly highlight that Lido actually decreased from 74.8 to 74.5. So they dropped by 30 bips in market share. And then that is actually been distributed obviously across the board. But FrxETH has gained a 0.6% market share up to 1.55% of the total total LSD market. I know these are tiny ass numbers. I get it, but a win is a win. But you know what is not a tiny ass number? It is the 30-day change, which FrxETH is rocking a nice 23% when compared to all the other pools.
Yeah, that's doubled the next biggest one.
Yes, and also just put more context on the Lido's 13% 30-day change. That was because of Justin Sun's 150,000.
His excellency.
Yeah, his excellency's massive stack, just like jamming it in there. So, you know, there's stuff to be said there too. But either way, we are very happy of where we are, and we're definitely gaining ground, and we are still growing at a 5% 7-day change. That's been consistent. So I'm very, very happy with our results there. But you know in what department we are just completely dominating the game?
What's that, Kit? I don't know.
I think it starts with a Y and rhymes with yield. And on the next slide, you'll see it, that we are rocking a nice juicy 11%.
11%.
With the closest competitor, at 5.6%. Like,
that is dramatic.
I mean, that is, we're all running the same software, right? Or are we not running the same software here? What's going on? Like, this is definitely not a software issue.
It's all on the same chain. It's all on the same chain.
It's all on the same chain. I believe it's the same mempool too. So I'm not quite sure what's going on here, but FrxETH is just crushing the game at 11%, Lido at 5.6, Stakewise at 5.2, and Rocket Pool at 4.8. So you see there, folks, FrxETH holding it
domination.
Holding it down. Okay, now we move on to Sam's. He's not here with us today, but we still got to cover his favorite product, which is the F to the P to the I, and that is the Frax Price Index. And this stablecoin is a inflation tracked stablecoin. So what that means is that every month or a couple months or so, when there is an inflation reading currently being decided by the CPI, FPI has to maintain its peg to whatever that annual inflation rate is. And right now, that annual inflation rate is 6.3%. And there's currently 82.3 million FPI out there that needs to maintain this exchange rate or this peg rate. But what's surprising is FPI is actually above the peg by 81 bips. So that means it's actually earning, it's actually more backing. And to show you where that backing comes from, 88.3 million of the Treasury TVL is currently inside the convex FPI Frax, providing liquidity for the people. And through this liquidity providing, they generate yield. And guess how much extra yield, which I call, quote, equity here, is 4.5 million. Okay, and I put quote equity not in the way that you think about securities, but equity as mean any excess above when assets minus liabilities, you have equity. Oh, DeFi Dave is too excited. You see, we have 4.5 million in equity here, and that means that goes to not FPI, because you remember, if you have already met your requirement to meet the inflation. So this goes into VEFPIS. So that is pretty nice. All right, on the next slide, you see us talk about the second leg. This is DeFi Dave's favorite. You can see it on his Telegram. He has the FraxLand icon next to it.
I love how we all have our different logos. Like Sam has FPI.
Yeah.
Our Sam has FPIS. I have FraxLand.
Yeah. I need to throw FrxETH on mine because
you got the FrxETH on yours. Yeah.
That's my favorite. And then let me see what I wanted to highlight here is that a interesting point. We actually dropped to like almost 100 million TVL in this pool in this product last week, and now just over the week we bumped up by 30 million in TVL, and we're back at 144.
We're so back.
Yes, but interestingly, Dave, is we on the borrow front. We didn't grow so much. On the borrow front, we're actually down. Our utilization rate is at 63%. It was 66% just last week. So people are definitely still supplying Frax and definitely collateralizing assets, but not many people are borrowing still. So I thought that was quite interesting here. And, you know, maybe folks are just a bit more cautious. Which is fine. But surprisingly, you know what's funny? Like, if this event were to ever occur again, you kind of want to borrow a shit ton of Frax because you get to pay it back at a, like, you know, that was the 11-12% discount at one point, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, that's just my 2 cents. But let's take a look at some pairs. So we see here that the tippity top pair this week was GOM again at 8.92%. So if you want to go in there and park your Frax to earn some sweet supply APY, you get 9% on your Frax by LPing into this GOM Frax pair. But if that's too risky for you, you can go down the stack a little bit to FrxETH, which is the most pristine collateral, and you can net a nice 6.4% on your Frax supplying it there instead. So pretty solid in my opinion. But borrowing is expensive. Yeah. Maybe that's why not a lot of folks are borrowing, Dave. You see how it's like really expensive.
Yeah, it's getting up there.
Yeah, it's really expensive to borrow.
But some nice rates, you know, supplying.
Yeah. But good yield for us. Great yield for the FraxLend AMO. But here is my what I call the last leg of the DeFi Trinity, but also almost like the most untalked about DEX that actually generates volume is our Frax Swap, which has 69 million in TVL, had a nice 5% bump over the week, which is $30 million. And you know what's interesting is that we actually facilitate 128 million in monthly volume. And you clearly see here, like the LSD Frax narrative is no longer like in full swing, like which it was in January and February.
Yeah, I was thinking the volume. Like the LSD narrative has definitely cooled down a bit, and
massively.
Even right before Shanghai, you think it would be like more and more, but not really.
Very surprising.
Right now, it's just macro has completely taken over the narrative, and like, what's the Fed gonna do? Like, but this and that, especially with the current environment with regional banks and national banks in the U.S.
And FOMC's tomorrow, so like it's just nice storm. Of,
what will the high priest of our economy say this time?
They really are the high priest, huh?
Yeah, we're at the mercy of their word.
That's a nice analogy. But anyways, let's take a look at profitability. And here we're bumping along real nice with our AMO holdings. And you guys are listening. DeFi Dave is just nodding his head and bobbing because we are up 2.2%. And we have a nice 921 million in our AMOs. That is a nice 20 million bump from last week. And where did that come from? Yeah, the majority of it came from the Curve pool, actually, the Curve AMO to be specific. 20 million came out from there. Like it was like maybe like 2 million came out from the investor and like small bumps across the board for all the other AMOs. But overall, good week on the AMO front. But before we move into profitability, I do want to warn you, we are in the red and because we had to pay for bribes. But hopefully,
how bad? How bad is it?
Not that bad. We're still going to end the month red. Oof. But yes. So for the folks listening,
the cost of liquidity, folks.
The cost of this is legit cost of liquidity. So for us, for this month so far, we earned $1,060,000 in revenue across CRV, CVX, and FXS.
While we have 11 days.
Exactly. While paying out 1.6 million in bribes, which gives us a negative of 550K. But hey, that's fine. We have one more week to earn the yield back. So I really think we're going to get, that number back down to the 200K. I think it's okay at the 200K mark. I feel we are steadily. But one thing I want to point out is you see, Dave, how Curve is basically literally 90% of that whole pool, right? Mm-hmm. And CVX is just going to keep on falling precipitously.
Yeah.
So, that's why on next week I'm going to start including it. But I'm going to show you guys our other revenue streams. And that comes in all from the other AMOs. So tune in next week for that update on the FraxCheck.
Little special expansion over here.
Yes. And that is it for FraxCheck number 30 for the week of March 15th to the 21st. Thank you. Any comments, DeFi Dave?
Things are normalizing, business as usual. Excited for FraxCheck next week for those new AMOs and to see the profitability in the green.
Yes,
and to make sure that you catch the one next week, you have to hit that bell button so you get all the notifications of when we come out with these episodes. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Do that right now. Let us know what you think of these in the comments. Go. We've been doing this for over half a year now. We're going to keep doing it just for you guys. Give us a like. Follow us on Twitter at Flywheel DeFi. Join the Telegram conversation on Telegram, because where else? At Flywheel DeFi. Follow me on Twitter. I'm DeFi Dave 22.
I'm 0x_K.
And we'll see you next week.